Hi guys, I'm Tess, and this is a video brought to you by the Learning Exchange about recording, editing, and publishing a podcast in Anchor. Anchor is a recording and editing program owned by Spotify. This is handy because whenever you record a podcast in Anchor and publish it, Spotify will automatically upload it to its site, as well as many other podcasting sites, such as Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. It also means that you can use any song on Spotify in your podcast for free. Step 1. Download Anchor. Anchor can be used on a computer, a smartphone, or an iPad. Today I'll be using my iPad, but the process is the same on every device. The layout might look slightly different, but all of the editing options are color-coded. So look for the colors of the editing options that I'm using on the device that you use if it's not an iPad, and you should have no problems. Anchor is a very user-friendly program, so don't be intimidated. So to get Anchor on an iOS device, you'll open up the App Store. Mine's down at the bottom of my screen right here. You'll press on the search bar, type in Anchor. Okay, Anchor, and then we'll hit search. And you'll want to select the one that's purple and has the yellow squiggly line. That's the Anchor we want to download. And then hit download at the top right there. And I'll go back to the home screen now. And you can see it's downloading in the bottom of my screen. Okay, so we'll just wait for that. There, and now it's downloaded. I'm gonna open it up, and you have the options of signing up with your Apple ID, if you know your email and password for that. You can sign up with email instead, and under that option you can sign up with Twitter or Facebook. And if you already have an account, you'll hit login at the top right here, okay? So I'll do that. Okay, so now I can hit login. That's my information. And a couple options pop up. Do I want to save my password? Not right now. Do I want notifications about the podcast? I'll hit not right now as well. And can Anchor track my activity across other companies' apps and websites? Also, I'm going to hit not right now. None of those, you don't have to say yes to any of that for Anchor to work. And as you can see, I just said no to all three of them, but take your preference. So now you can see the home screen of Anchor. You have some options on the side here. So as I said earlier, Anchor has a slightly different layout if you're on a computer or on your phone from how you're seeing it now on my iPad, but the options are all there, and the colors of these options are all the same, okay? So you can use that as a guide when you're navigating Anchor on a different device, and this tutorial will still work for you. You can just use those colors to translate what order you do the steps in, or what order you select the options in on whatever device you're on. Okay, so let's take a look at what the options are real quick. We have record at the top, which is just what it sounds. It's how you capture your voice in Anchor. Record with friends, which is a pretty cool option. It's kind of like a phone call that you have with your friends in Anchor. They have to have Anchor too, and the two of you call through the app, and it will record that phone call, okay? And so it's a great way to do interviews or co-host a podcast with a friend if you're not in the same room or not in the same area. You have library, which whenever you import media or after you record your media, that's where that will go. You have music. As I said earlier, Anchor is owned by Spotify, so it gives you access to Spotify music if you want to use that in your podcast. Voice messages is where your listeners can contact you if they want to get in touch with you after they hear your show. And interludes and sounds are basically little transitions, little audio transitions. Interludes are a bit longer, and sounds are more like sound effects. But check those out, and you can put those in your podcast as well. If you're on computer, these are grouped into one category. So iPad is a little bit different. It separates them into two, but not a big difference otherwise. And if you're on an iPhone, you won't see all these options right away on your home screen. There'll be a little button kind of at the bottom of your screen that tells you show more or something like that, and you'll just hit that and it'll open up all of these options, and you can choose which one of them you want to use at that moment. Okay, Step 2 of making a podcast in Anchor is recording. Before we record, I'll give you a few tips about recording with a microphone. When you speak into your microphone, you'll want to keep a distance of about 6 inches, but every microphone is different, and the way to find out how to record with yours is to test it out and listen back to the recording. You'll also want to get rid of any background noises like fans or open windows that might decrease the quality of your recording before you start. Okay, so let's record. You can record in Anchor, but you don't have to. You can import a recording from another source. Like let's say if you recorded something on your iPhone and then you want to edit it in Anchor, that's completely possible. And I'll show you how to do that now, okay? So we'll go into our home screen and I'll find my voice memos at the bottom here where I have a little audio clip, okay, that I've recorded. And let's pretend this is my podcast, or let's pretend it's an interview I did with somebody that I need to edit, right? I'll hit the share button up at the top here, the box with the arrow, and we'll find Anchor in our sharing options. So there it is right there. Press Anchor. And it brings us back to Anchor, and that will show up in our library, okay? So there we go. There's my podcast. It's not really my podcast. It's just an example for you guys. So I'm actually going to delete it and record in Anchor with you, okay? So we'll hit the recording tab up here with the microphone on it to bring us into the recording section. Now we have this microphone image down here, which it says tap here to start recording. And yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So it gives me a little message asking me if I want to enable my microphone. I will hit yes because I need a microphone to use Anchor, and hit OK to this. And let me try recording something. Hi everyone, my name's Tice, and this is my first podcast episode. And we hit stop to end the recording. Oops. So we have two options at the bottom here now, trim and save. Let's hit trim to see what that does. And this lets me say where this section of my podcast will start and where it will end. Okay, let's listen to it. And let me try recording something. Hi everyone. All right, so I don't want this. I want to start it when I say hi everyone, right? So I'll drag it over, start it right there. And now, podcast episode. And we hit stop to end the recording. Yeah, so I don't want this either. That's not for the podcast. I just didn't hit end recording soon enough. So this is the part we want to keep. The parts in gray are the parts that we don't want to keep. You can see start, end, boom, right there. We'll hit save and trim at the bottom there. And we can hit save here. And we get to title the segment, okay? I'll title it segment 1. And I'll say good, because it's good. It doesn't need to be edited. And this is asking me if I want to publish the episode. I'm not ready yet because I have more segments to record. The podcast isn't finished yet, so I'll hit there. Okay, so the first segment is good. It's recorded. And I'll go ahead and record the second one. Today we're covering all things podcasts. We'll talk about planning your podcast, editing it, and lastly, how to promote it on social media. Okay, so you can see I made a mistake. When I made that mistake, there was an option about right here that said add flag. And I pressed that button to show me later on when I come back to edit this part that there is a mistake there. It's going to put a flag there so that I can see later that there's something there I need to fix, in case I forget. We'll see what that means later on, but if you make a mistake, you can press add flag, and that will save you from going through the whole segment to find the mistake later on. So we'll do what we did last time. We'll hit trim down here, and we're just going to select the start and end points again.
Today we're covering...
Yeah, I just want to cut out the silence before I started speaking. And
how to promote it on social media.
awesome. I'll end it right there. Okay, and there is the mistake. There's the flag. This is around where the mistake is, but we're not going to fix that now. We'll do that a little bit later. Now we can hit save, and we'll title this one segment 2, edit. And I just wrote edit to remind myself later that that one is not good. It needs to be edited. Okay, add recording to episode. Now we have we'll do one more. We'll do one more segment together. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody. This has been Tice on behalf of the Learning Exchange. All right, and that one was good. Let's start. Cut out some of the silence again. Cut out some of the silence back here, and hit save and trim. Okay, and it's going to show up right there. Oh no, have to hit save. Name it, of course, segment 3. Good. There, now it'll show up there. And now we're ready for step 3, which is editing a podcast in Anchor. So on each of these 3 segments, you have these 3 little dots on the side, which gives you more editing options, okay? So let's hit that on the one that we need to edit. Oops, I held that down for a bit too long. Okay, and we'll hit edit audio at the bottom, okay? So again, this is segment 2. This is the one we made the mistake in, and there's the flag telling us that we made that mistake. So I'm not going to listen to all this. I know the mistake is somewhere around the flag, so I'll start from here.
Editing it, and lastly, how to float.
Oh, oops. There's the mistake, how to float.
How to promote it.
And there's the fix, how to promote. Okay, so let's cut out how to float.
And lastly, how to float.
There it is. This is the thorn of the recording right here. We'll split the audio right there, okay? Split. And what that's done, that's put this hard line down, and it made this, which was once one track, into 2 tracks, okay? And we're going to do that over here too. Right before the fix, we're going to hit split again, okay? And what that's done is it's isolated the mistake completely in between these lines so that all the good parts are either before the first line or after the second line, okay? And all the bad parts are in between the 2. So now what we can do when we're sure we've done that is press and hold in the middle section and just hit delete segment. We don't want it, okay? And you can hit save. Now this is asking us, do we want to split it into 2 segments? We'll say yes. I'll show you why in a second. All right, and that's all the editing we had to do. The other 2 segments were good, remember? So now we can go down to library, which is where all of our tracks will be. We have segment 1 here, we have segment 2, segment 3, and then what we just did was we split segment 2 into 2 parts, 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. 1 of 2 is the section of it before the mistake that we made, and 2 of 2 is the section of it after the mistake that we made, okay? So let's get rid of segment 2 in the project over here because it has the mistake in it that we don't want. So we'll click delete from episode, and we'll drag in these 2 parts. All right, and now we have a problem because in our project, the order goes segment 1, segment 3, segment 2, part 1, segment 2, part 2. It's in the wrong order. So we'll hit rearrange up here, and we'll just drag these to be in the order that we want them to be, right? And hit save. So let's have a listen. Down here you can always preview your project with this button, okay?
Hi everyone, my name's Tice, and this is my first podcast episode. Today we're covering all things podcasts. We'll talk about planning your podcast, editing it, and lastly, how to promote it on social media. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody. This has been Tice on behalf of the Learning Exchange.
Wow, seamless. You can't even tell that I made a mistake. Okay, so that flows really well. I want to put a little bit of intro and outro music in the podcast. So we'll go over to the interludes tab here, the pink one. And let's see what some of these sound like. It's a little too sleepy for me. There, that's nice. Okay, I'll do that for the intro. So have to hit rearrange, drag it, drag it up, hit save, and an outro. Let's see what this sounds like. Cool, that's kind of a nice sound. So you can add things into the project either by dragging them in like that, or just by hitting this little plus button down here. And yeah, there it is. So that's all good. I guess one last thing I could show you is the sounds. Well, there's the Spotify music if you want to have a full song in your podcast. I don't think this is the project for that, but feel free to experiment. Let's just put this in for fun. Oops. That's kind of funny. Why isn't Bling working? There we go. That's nice. Let's rearrange. We'll put that like here. I don't really know how that's going to sound, but you know, this is just an example. And let's preview and see what the whole thing sounds like.
Hi everyone, my name's Tice, and this is my first podcast episode. Today we're covering all things podcasts. We'll talk about planning your podcast, editing it, and lastly, how to promote it on social media. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody. This has been Tice on behalf of the Learning Exchange.
All right, that's pretty good. Obviously, your podcast episode is probably going to be a little bit longer, but this has been just an example, obviously. Step 4, publishing your podcast. We have episode title and episode description up here. So on episode title, I'm going to put podcasting in Anchor. Okay. And here I'll elaborate on that a little bit. Learning. Meant to capitalize. Learning how to record, edit, and publish a podcast in Anchor with Tice. And I'll say on behalf of the Learning Exchange. Okay, season 1, episode 1, and episode type. It says full. Let's call it a trailer. It's kind of like a trailer. Having a strong cover photo to go along with your podcast is really important because you use it for marketing whenever you're posting on social media and whenever you post and distribute to different apps like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's the first image that people see and it's the thing that they will link to your podcast. And we can hit publish now. We can also select a publish date if we want it to publish, a week from now or schedule it for another time, but I'll just hit publish now. And there we go. It's completely done. Anchor, as I said, automatically uploads it to a lot of different distributors, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But it takes about 24 hours usually for them to review your podcast and make sure that there aren't any violations of their terms and conditions in your podcast. You're probably going to be fine, but that's the reason for the delay on the publishing. So we made it. Today we've learned how to record, edit, and publish a podcast in Anchor. Lastly, I'd like to thank our funders who made this video possible.